everyone, and welcome back to our Golden 20 podcast. My name is Tegan, and I'm joined with my co-host Sadie.
Hello.
And we're back. We are back together, and we have a very topical episode to talk about. It'll be all about moving. I know that this is like a very popular time for moving. A lot of people like start new leases in September because it's like you're going to school and like a lot of it's aligned to the new school year. So I just feel like lots of people are moving right now. I'm moving right now. Sadie, I know your sister's moving right now. So it's all top of mind.
Yeah, even on my Instagram, I just feel like everybody's been moving lately. Like,
Yeah.
it just seems to be the thing to do in 2024 is to move. So hopefully we can give you guys lots of actionable tips if you are also moving. I feel like we're going to cover just some basic stuff, but also some specific packing and unpacking tips as well.
Yeah. And before we dive into that, we are going to do a connection card. Okay. This card says, when someone challenges my beliefs, I blank.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like I used to fight. Honestly, I was like, any single time I had the opportunity to fight somebody, I would. That was very much younger Sadie, and I still get in moods like that, like especially like when I'm drinking or like I don't know.
Right.
I feel like that side of me can come out, but I feel like especially as I'm getting older, heading into my 30s, I just don't feel the need to justify myself or waste my like energy on other people. So it really probably depends the situation. Like I do get in a few, like I feel like not even people challenging my beliefs necessarily, but like with my family, I feel my parents will say things politically that I don't agree with, and I like don't say much until I can't take it anymore, and then it's very much just like shut the conversation down. Clearly we don't agree. We don't need to spend a lot of time and energy on this. So I feel like that's kind of my approach now, and it would be the same if someone was like coming at me specifically for my beliefs as well.
Yeah, I feel like I'm somewhat similar. I think for the most part, if someone's challenging my beliefs, I like listen until a point. And it's like sometimes you learn something new, sometimes your beliefs change. I feel like 90% of the time I'm like, that's an interesting thing to think, and, you know, kind of leave it there. I would say, the same as you. Most times I just kind of like leave it there. Like it's not worth getting into. And I find a lot of times people who are like aggressively sharing beliefs that are different to mine, I feel like they're like looking for a confrontation a lot of times. Yeah, so then I'm just like, I'm not going to give you the satisfaction. Yeah, exactly. I'll just be like, and like say nothing. Yeah, so I feel like we're pretty aligned. And sometimes I'll challenge people, but it's almost like the closer the friend they are to me, the more likely I am to challenge them, because it's like I know that our friendship can handle it. But like an acquaintance, if they say something where our beliefs don't align, I'm not going to be like, this is where I need to fight. I don't know. I am like a white woman though, so maybe that's like a privilege of mine to be able to be like, it's fine, I'll just walk away. But yeah, I feel like you said, a lot of times it's just like not worth getting into. And it's like, I know I do my research. I know I'm well educated. I know I go out there and vote. And I'm like, I will speak with my votes and I will show my beliefs that way and be happy.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Perfect.
Well, there you go. What an interesting question.
I do know lots of people who get very angry when their beliefs are challenged.
Totally.
So I could definitely see that.
Yeah. I was going to say, I feel like something that I'm like proud of is really like curating the people around me. This is another thing where I'm like, I feel like I'm surrounded by like-minded people where I don't seem to run into this too often, which is nice. But I feel like, and it's okay also to be friends with people who you have different beliefs, but a lot of the things that are like non-negotiable core values to me and my friends align on. And that's why they're my great friends and like why I spend so much time with them. So I feel like this is something that I don't have to deal with too often, which again is likely a privilege, but also kind of strategic on my part as well.
Yeah, definitely. I feel very lucky that I'm the same, where it's like I don't have like big belief battles with my husband or like my family very often or my friends. It's usually like random acquaintances that are saying weird things. And then the best part of like my husband and I being aligned in our beliefs is that we can go home and be like, can you believe that they
Yeah.
said this?
100%. That's awesome.
Great. Okay, we can get into all of the moving tips and tricks. I feel like I'm a moving expert. I said in my like little solo episode, I think I've moved like 6 times in the last 10 years.
Oh, geez.
So I am ready. And I have only ever moved myself. I've never used a moving company. I have only been moving like small distances. The furthest away has been like 2 hours by car. So nothing too crazy. Obviously, like if you're moving across the country, it makes sense to get like a moving company and that sort of thing. But all this to say, I feel like I am qualified to share. And then I just know people listening, they're going to listen to the tips that are like, use sturdy boxes and be like, girl, why are you hyping this up so much? But still, I'm excited.
That's funny. My sister's currently moving to the state. She's moving to upstate New York. And I feel for her so much because she accepted a job there, but like just the amount of paperwork and like extra things she needs to do to move countries, like I feel like it's valid, you know, just moving countries. It makes sense. There's so much involved in that, especially if you're going there to work. But it's just like, oh my God, I'm stressed for her and I'm not even dealing with anything. Like it's just crazy. But all this to say, I feel like no matter how far you're moving is very overwhelming, and I don't know, I feel like we just need to validate that too, because it's not as easy as like, okay, and then you pack your boxes, then you move them to your new place, and then you unpack them and you're settled. It's like, no, that's very unrealistic. So I feel like you were saying, Take, maybe some of the tips we're going to provide are basic, but when you're in the chaos of moving, you need to remember the basics and like take it one step at a time, because it is a very overwhelming process.
Yeah, 100%. That's a good point. I've heard that moving is like one of the most stressful events in your adult life. It's like getting married, getting divorced, switching jobs, having a baby, and moving. So if you are in the process and are like, I'm losing my mind, like, fair enough. This is probably the top 5 most stressful moment of your adult life. So that's fine that you're stressed about it, but you will get through.
Yeah. I feel I haven't moved in a while, thankfully, knock on wood. I am kind of itching to move just because everybody else has been moving or been seeing people. And I'm like, I've been here so long, which is great. It's why I continue to stay, be under rent control. But I'm like, it'd just be fun to like, I don't know, switch things up. But all this being said, I feel like my family works really well as a unit when it comes to moving. Mm-hmm. And this kind of goes into my first point of like moving tips, or my first tip for you guys is to ask your friends and family to help or hire professionals. And that's because it is so overwhelming. And my family and I, like, there was me and my sisters, so I have 2 older sisters, we're all like 3 years apart. So there was a time, you know, when my oldest sister was in college or university, she was graduating university, my other sister was moving into university, that, you know, it was so many moves in so many years between the 3 of us, where we kind of had this running joke, but it was very accurate, where the person who was moving was the least helpful person out of all of us, because they were so overwhelmed. They had no idea what they were doing. Like, they just couldn't make decisions, nothing, because they were just like so stunned in how overwhelming it was, where everybody else would step up and be like, okay, we're going to put, you know, the plates in this cupboard, and if you don't like it, you can change it later. But I feel like just leaning on your friends and family, it might feel like a big ask to be like, hey, can you help me move? But I really think it's like worthwhile doing, because it's not something you should have to do on your own since it's so stressful. And if you feel like you don't have friends and family to help, or, you know, schedules aren't aligning, people aren't available, whatever the situation is, it might be worth hiring professional movers to help you. I've been seeing so many YouTubers who like have hiring companies that like pack for them, and then they move their boxes for them like all on the same day. And I'm like, that is nuts. Obviously that would be very pricey, but it's like, again, you maybe need to make a choice. Do I want the mental stress or do I want to just throw money at the problem? And I don't blame you if you throw money at the problem and hire professionals. And I think regardless if you're moving on your own or having friends and family helping you, I think another great thing to do is to create a list to help keep yourself organized. And if you're struggling to think of all the things yourself, there's so many like resources online, moving checklists for you to download and print, or even just like reference those and create your own version. But I think when it comes to, you know, all those things that you need to do, if it's changing your address for mail, coordinating like your internet hookup or your electricity and any utilities that you need to hook up at your new place, if you need to like literally anything, book the elevator, like whatever it is, I think it's just good to have a list of all the tasks so that you don't need to keep remembering what all the tasks are as you do them. It's all just written down and you can just focus on tackling them and checking them off the list.
Yeah, 100%. I think another big thing I've learned is like start as early as you can, which this was something I applied to my wedding planning and all the times I moved. And people are so weird about like you moving. I don't know what it is, but every time I've told someone like, oh yeah, we're starting to get packing, they're like, wow, that's early. But in my experience, like it doesn't matter how early you start packing, you will always be like packing the night before. So basically, as soon as you know that you are moving, start coming up with your plans, start getting your moving supplies, and start packing. What system we do is we basically start packing the things we know we won't use. So we're moving right now, we're packing like all our Christmas supplies because we aren't going to need them. And then we pack those and we'll pick a spot in our house where that will be like the moving pile. And we pack all of those things in the back last so that, you know, if for whatever reason we need to take 2 trips, it's not like, you know, we're at our new place and we don't have any of our plates or cutlery. That's things that are packed last, so it'll be added to the pile very last. We'll know that that's like the first box moved, that sort of thing. So that was one thing I wanted to mention. The other thing is to save more money than you think you will need because random costs add up very quickly, whether it's like moving boxes, tape, like you go through so much green painter's tape, Sharpies, like if you need to rent a dolly, like whatever it is, things just go up. And when you're like on moving day and it's crunch time, it's not the time to be like, ooh, I only have $25 in my account. Like I'm not going to be able to pay for this. Have more saved, have a little like emergency fund specifically for moving so that you can cover the unexpected costs. Even just like, you know, you have your friends over and you realize we have absolutely no food in this new house. I want to order everyone pizza as a thank you. Like have money set aside for that and those like little things that add up.
100%. I think something else I thought of was around like having, if this is possible, this might not be possible, which I recognize, but if it's possible, try having like a period of overlap between your 2 places. So for instance, my rent in my current apartment, like I'm the 15th of the month to the 15th of the month, where it's like maybe when I do eventually move, I get my new place on the 1st of the month so that I can start gradually moving things over, knowing I have 2 weeks in my current place until I have to be out, if that makes sense. But I think just having, if it's like a week or 2 weeks, even just a few days where you have possession of both places, it just really helps you manage the stress of actual moving day because it's a lot to move out of one place, clean that place, move into like clean the new place, move into the new place, assuming you're somebody who wants to clean before and after you leave. But I think it's just a lot. And even this could give you time, like if you're wanting to measure doorways to make sure you can get like the couch up the stairs or in the elevator through the door, your bed, whatever it is. Even if you're ordering new furniture, like all of this just gives you the time to do that. And the last bonus I could think of was you could also start gradually moving things over. So some of those things you were just talking about, Tag, where it's like, I can pack this super early. Maybe, you know, you can also move them to your new place super early because you know you won't need them right away or while you're still at your last place. So if it's possible, try to have some overlap between places.
Yeah, definitely. It makes things way, way easier because you also have like a little more wiggle room if you're like, I have too much stuff, it's not going to fit in the moving van or whatever it is. It's not
Yeah,
like, well, we've only got it for another 2 more hours, so we're going to make it work. So,
exactly.
definitely. Some other tips I had were one, to declutter before you pack. It's just easier like when you're packing to be like, okay, I don't need this anymore. I have moved so much stuff from different apartments and it's just like a pain. If it's not sparking joy, donate it. Like, you don't need to be paying to move it to a new place where you're not going to use it. So definitely start there. The other thing is when you're moving, to pack yourself a bag like you're going on vacation. So this would be a bag with like a week's worth of clothes, including like underwear and pajamas, a couple pairs of shoes, and your toiletries. So that when you're arriving at your new house, you're not like, I'm trying to move all this stuff in, but I have to go to bed tonight. So not only am I moving it in, I have to find which box all my pajamas are in and then try to unpack that. Like, it's just a pain. Assume that you'll be living out of like a suitcase or a weekender bag and pack accordingly. And then you can just sort of live out of that bag until you start to get things a little more unpacked.
100%. I think that kind of went into some of the packing tips. Like, it's a perfect segue into some packing tips that we had, because I had something similar around setting aside essential items that you'll need right away. So you were just talking about like toiletries and, pajamas, sheets and everything for when you're first there. But I also, like, in your new place, sorry. But I also
Yeah.
think you can apply this to, like, you have a box of household things that you're going to need in the new place.
Yeah.
Again, if you have like crossover between places, maybe you take this box before you move anything else there. But this is the box with things like tools and scissors, things that you're going to need to help you unpack and get settled. It could also be cleaning supplies. Apparently, I'm a big cleaner when it comes to moving, since I keep bringing it up. But I think that's really handy, as well as like hand soap or toilet paper, paper towels, like garbage bags, things that you need in order to unpack and pack. I think having those essentials set aside is also really key.
Yes, 100%. I think thinking about packing overall, we've already talked about like boxes and those sorts of things, but this is, I think, the key element to packing is to start getting your moving supplies together. I'm lucky that this is actually my first move where I've had to buy moving boxes. Every other move I've done, all of my boxes have been recycled. So they were from like a factory that my dad works at that he was able to get us. And it's great because these boxes are like high quality. They have lids, they're all the same size, they stack, and they have good handles. So a lot of people say to use the same brand of boxes. So if you're getting all your boxes at Home Depot, then you'll know they're all the same size. They'll all be able to stack. It can get kind of messy when you're mixing and matching, but it depends on how far you're moving, how big of a deal that is. So wanted to mention that. But I see people giving away free moving boxes all the time on Facebook Marketplace and places like that, because people, they just use them. They don't want to throw them out or recycle them. No, someone's probably looking for them. So definitely keep an eye out for that. I know some brands, like I think U-Haul, if any boxes you don't use, you can return and they'll pay you for them. So that's something to keep in mind. So wanted to mention that. Also, using the things that you have to move. Like, we have a lot of reusable totes, or what's the right word? Like, they are totes, like big plastic things. And, we use them for our seasonal storage, but we're using them to move heavy things currently because it's like, that's what makes sense. Big plastic totes with handles. And I also will go to thrift stores and see if I can buy any of those secondhand. You can be using like your suitcases to move clothes. Like, you don't have to buy all brand new matching moving boxes necessarily.
Yeah, and I feel like that logic even applies to other moving supplies like paper to wrap breakable and fragile things. Like, I find I can put like my linens to use for that kind of
Yep.
thing. Like, rather than yeah, wrapping my plates in newspaper or moving paper. It's like just wrap them in tea towels and your bed
Hmm.
linens and like put all of those types of things to use to really, and I think that really helps not only save you money, but it's also just such a pain to have to break down all these boxes and like get rid of
Yeah.
them once you're in the new space. I think speaking of boxes, something that I have always done and I feel like really makes it helpful to get situated into a new spot and stay organized. Cleaning and organization are key themes for me when I'm moving, apparently, but packing my boxes by room and then labeling them by room and also having like a brief description of what's in the box. That might be moving 101 to some people and that might be completely revolutionary to other people, but I feel like there's a high chance, however you have been living and you're set up in your current place, you'll probably mimic that somewhat similarly in your new place, or at least it's a great place to start. So rather than, going around your apartment and just throwing random things into random boxes, it'll probably help if you just, start in one room, start packing that into a few boxes, label the boxes with whatever room that is so that so for instance, if you're in your bedroom packing, when you get to the new spot, this is going to be my bedroom. So all the boxes labeled as bedroom, you just put directly in there and then you unpack it the same way you just, packed it one room at a time. And I think having a brief description of the other things that are in that box helps as well, because you might have, 5 bedroom boxes, or I think kitchen's a big one where you probably have like quite a few different things going in your kitchen or a few different
Hmm.
boxes of things from your kitchen. But it's important to know, where's my dishes versus where's all the food that I packed or whatever. So having that brief description helps as well.
Yes, definitely. I think related to packing boxes, I actually use bags for all softer items. So, like clothes, sheets, things like that. So, I'll use like clear garbage bags. And if they're on hangers in a closet, I'll keep them on the hangers and just wrap the bags around the top so that when you get to your new location, you could just like stick the hangers on and take the bag off and it's already good and organized. And the other thing I wanted to mention is to be aware when packing boxes to not overpack boxes from a weight perspective, which this is so easy to do when it's just like sitting on the ground, you're throwing a bunch of stuff in it. But check in periodically. And for things like dishes and things that get really, really heavy, stick with smaller boxes so that they're not too heavy. One, so that like you don't hurt yourself when you're moving, but two, so that your boxes and handles aren't ripping when you're trying to moving, because obviously that's just like a whole nightmare. So that's something to keep in mind. But also don't leave boxes like half empty, because if there's any space for things to jiggle around, that's when things get damaged. So this is when it's good to keep like towels, linens on hand if you have to fill it up, even like random things that aren't necessarily delicate, like clothes hangers. I'll like fill in the top of boxes with extra clothes hangers, things like that, which can help from things being like jostled too much. The other thing I wanted to say was when you're moving furniture, try to keep all the hardware together, especially if you're taking furniture apart. So, what I'll do is I'll take all of the hardware and put it in a little plastic bag and tape it with green painter's tape to the furniture itself, because you don't want to have to go like digging through bags to find the screws that put your bed together. Like, just tape it all, you'll know, and you could even label it so that if like parts of the bed go missing, whatever it is, you'll be able to all find it. But definitely some more things to keep in mind.
Love it. I feel like we are now in the unpacking tips. We are like breezing through, even though it's like tip after tip, so much content. I think I was just talking about, putting your boxes in your rooms according to how you pack them helps you unpack them as well. But something else on the unpacking side I really wanted to mention was taking the pressure off yourself to unpack right away
Yeah.
and have to, be settled the day or the weekend after you move in. Like, I feel like it's okay to unpack just to get things out of boxes and like, where
Yeah.
you can see it and things are accessible and, you know, you can start to get settled in, but you don't need to commit to how you unpack on day one for the rest of the time that you live there. Like, it's
Yeah.
okay to live in the space and be like, actually, it makes more sense if my dishes were over here instead, and you move it around. Like, I think that's something that me and my sisters put a lot of pressure on ourselves for, and that's
Mm,
why we get so like overwhelmed and overstimulated when I'm the one moving or they're the one moving,
totally.
because it's like I can't make a decision because I fear making the wrong decision, or whatever decision I make I have to stick to, where it's like that
Yeah.
is not the case at all. Like, take your time getting settled in. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing for unpacking for me.
Yeah, totally. I saw some when I was doing research for this episode. Some people were like, plan a housewarming party so you're forced to be unpacked by a certain date. And I was like, that's
Oh
my
my god.
literal nightmare. Like,
Yeah, no thank
don't
you.
do that. Take your time, relax. Like, I was just like,
Yeah.
oh, that's a weird tip to say. But, anyways, back to my tips that actually make sense. Um, I wanted to say, like, when you're first moving in and when you're first moving out, definitely like take pictures and videos of everything if you're renting, so that, you know, if you have a deposit or anything like that, you're able to get your money back and you just have like an awareness of what the space is like. Also, make sure you're dressed appropriately. This is mainly inspired because I watch like so many YouTubers, and when they're moving, they look so cute and put together. And like, it's great content, but I don't always know that it's realistic. Like, you should probably be wearing closed toed running shoes and like sweatpants and like clothes you don't mind getting like messy, because you're going to be like lifting things and moving things,
Hmm.
and you know, you don't want to drop a box on your foot, and you know, keep that in mind. I also wanted to suggest unpacking your kitchen first. This room, I find, hosts the most amount of items that you use daily, and like you said, it tends to be the room that has the most amount of boxes. So I would definitely say like prioritize the kitchen first, just so that if you're there, you're like, I really need a plate because I really need to eat some food, it'll already be unpacked, as opposed to like, you know, your books. You'll probably survive if you need to go 2 weeks without your books and things like that. I also think it's a good idea to break down boxes as you're emptying them, just so that you're not, as you're emptying them, creating more clutter. And what we mean by breaking down boxes is just like making them go flat, not like throwing them out or whatever. It just means like making them go flat, making them maybe sit in another room or wherever you're keeping your boxes. So that's definitely something that I think can help as well.
Yeah. I think the other thing for unpacking that my family does extremely well is creating systems where it's like one person's, you know, usually it's like my dad's the one unloading the truck. There's
Yeah.
somebody in the room, he's putting the box in the room where it's supposed to go. And then there's somebody in there to unpack it. And then there's maybe another person in there who's putting the things away. So that's typically a system that works for us. It might be a different system for you. Maybe you get everything in and then, you know, you tackle one room at a time, everybody. Maybe you have different people in different rooms. Whatever it is, I think just try to find a system to help you unpack, maybe similarly to how you have a system to help you pack as well.
Yeah, definitely. Keep it like chill. We've already talked about how stressful it is. So it's like you don't need to make it more stressful by like freaking out on your moving day and having it be like chaotic. Like, I always pick a good playlist and it's like blast some tunes, have some snacks, try to keep like a good chill vibe. And the last thing I wanted to say was to have like a food plan in place, especially if people are helping you. So whether it's like you're picking out a local restaurant near you that you really want to try out, or like just whatever your closest pizza shop is, because you're like, okay, let's try that out, and have a plan to be like, okay, at 5, we're ordering a bunch of pizzas for everyone, because if people are hungry, people get grouchy, and then grouchy turns into stressy and it all gets bad. So definitely just try and keep the vibes up, keep people fed, keep people happy, and it'll go super smoothly.
Yeah, and the other thing, have like a pack of water for people to just like
Yeah.
grab bottled waters. That's
Yeah.
also extremely important.
Yeah. And if you hire movers, tip them.
Yeah, and I don't know, are you supposed to feed them and give them water? Like, I've never hired
Yeah.
movers before
Water
either,
could be
but
nice. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Gatorades.
Yeah,
Get some hydration.
exactly. Yeah, keep your people. I feel like we're talking about like how to motivate like a work team, but that's essentially what
Yeah.
you're doing. Keep them motivated, keep them engaged, and they
Yep.
will give you good work.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well,
Great.
that is all of our tips for you guys. We hope something in here resonated and makes your move easier if you have a move coming up. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. We drop a new episode every single Tuesday. So if you liked this episode, make sure to subscribe and follow us on whatever app you're listening to this so you don't miss all of our future episodes. You can also rate us and leave us a review as well. And you can find us on social media. We're at Our Golden 20s. That's on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest. We have Spotify playlists. And lastly, we have a Patreon, which is the best way to support the podcast for as little as $2 a month. But that is it. Thanks again for listening. Good luck with your move, and we will see you next Tuesday.
Bye.